Alright, you and I are watching this guy get ice-guyed as a total third-rate loser. But knowing this fantasy world was completely doomed, he decides to save 5 demon kids who are destined to destroy everything. But he never expected them to get so obsessed with him that they'd wreck anything in their way. And let me tell you, this story is absolutely top tier. But first, smash that like button right now. Subscribe, hit the bell icon, and stay tuned because it really helps the channel. No more wasting time, let's jump right in. It all starts with a prophecy that in 10 years, the Eastern Kingdom Federation gets wiped out by 5 legendary villains. And to stop this doom from happening, our main character must save them and become their wealthy patron. But he never expected things to escalate so fast, completely flipping all of his master plans totally upside down. Now pay attention, let's see how this all started. Our main character was just a corporate slave, working 78 hours a week until he suddenly wakes up inside the body of a fantasy noble. That sounds like a sweet deal, and honestly, he thinks it's pretty awesome at first. Except for the fact that his new body and life are incredibly weird, since he cannot even read a single word in these fantasy books. And his butler is standing there thinking he has lost his mind because the book is literally upside down. So he's basically illiterate with 0 magic powers, but at least his new lifestyle is unbelievably luxurious, having a massive royal feast served just for breakfast. And obviously, he's totally loving every second of it, since the food is delicious and gorgeous maids even wash him in the bath. He figures being the spoiled, useless son of an elite count is honestly the perfect dream life, even if he still has absolutely no idea where he actually is. Meanwhile, the maid scrubbing his back breaks the silence. She mentions the young master's return tomorrow, so he should sleep early tonight. But you and I know he is totally lost. He asks who she means, and the confused maid replies it's the young masters, Leo and Tony Palacio. She asks why he is acting like he does not even recognize his own family. In that very second, his peaceful reality completely shatters and he wonders, who are the Palacios and why does that name sound so familiar? Then it suddenly clicks and he is absolutely terrified once he realizes the truth. He is trapped inside Pistol Idea, a brutal turn-based role-playing game he used to play all the time. The crazy part is, no matter which route you choose in this game, once the 5 great sins arise: wrath, greed, sloth, pride, and obsession, the kingdom, the nobles, and every single city gets totally annihilated, including the doomed Palacio household, where the oldest brother, Leo Palacio, becomes the king of scoundrels, and his second brother, Tony Palacio, runs the underground drugs. They are just a family of thugs featured in a minor tutorial quest before the main story even starts. Right after finishing up his warm baths, he steps outside and is completely shocked to see the exact same view from the game where side quest number 1 begins. To investigate Asteria, and trust me, it gets wild. Focusing on the Palacio family. Alright, we are jumping into a dark world of drugs and crime. Recognizing this scene, he knows he is in deep. The Palacios are the very first targets on the hit list of the 5 great sins. And our guy is just a throwaway extra, the 3rd son of the Palacio house, Alan Palacio, a totally worthless trash young master who contributes absolutely 0 to the plot. Back in bed, he is literally begging God to just let him go home already, because he would rather be a corporate wage slave again, grinding 78 hours a week. Crying in absolute despair, he realizes a lavish lifestyle means nothing if he is doomed to die in 10 years. Honestly, an early grave is way worse than 6 months of unpaid wages. Completely devastated, he can't believe he got stuck in a trash-tier character with 0 powers. But then a strange thought hits him: wait, what power? Since he actually beat this game, he knows exactly what goes down 10 years in the future. Basically, he's a prophet, so he thinks, why not just eliminate the threats that destroy the world? Watch closely here. This is the exact moment he decides to reform the 5 great sins to save his own skin. Too bad he doesn't realize that right now they are all still just little kids. And our boy Alan still has absolutely 0 powers. But if he wants to survive, he has got to make this work. 2 months fly by and his loyal knight reports they successfully rescued a young orphan girl from that sketchy orphanage, which was basically a secret human experimentation facility in the East. And he leaves the management of the orphanage to a girl named Yusha. By the way, this badass one-eyed knight is Evan, Alan's personal guard. Alan gives him some major praise, calling him incredibly talented and highly skilled at what he does. The knight just blinks, dryly asking if that is supposed to be a compliment. Since Alan's face is totally expressionless, our boy quickly nods, saying of course it is. I know what you're thinking, that smile is painfully fake as he tries to act friendly. Evan admits he won't get used to this friendly vibe, remembering how the young master used to be. He used to wear his emotions right on his sleeve. But Alan knows the possession is what actually gave him this permanent, stiff-faced poker expression. Still, Evan is secretly pretty stoked about the sudden praise. He shrugs and gives his thanks anyway. See, Evan was a total gem in the game, always brutally honest and unfailingly loyal despite all the chaos. That is exactly why Alan hired him on the spot. Right after, Evan asks if the girl's name was Yusha, and our boy nods yes. The knight nods, saying he can definitely see why. With his sharp instincts from his long years as a mercenary, he could tell Yusha is no ordinary kid. She is so powerful that he can't fathom how she even got captured. Still confused, Evan asks why they did not bring her to the estate, since leaving her there brings no benefit. But Alan admits that it might look incredibly reckless to just leave such a powerful asset sitting in an orphanage. But leaving her there is the core of his plan. You see, her real name is Yusha Blutia, a non-human who signed a pact with otherworldly entities to gain power, destined to become the sin of wrath and slaughter hundreds of thousands of people. But now she won't go down that dark path, she will grow up in peace like a normal kid. So you and I just saw him disarm the first major threat, now he just needs a solid excuse. Alan looks at Evan, firmly telling him that the time has simply not come yet. Staring him down dead seriously. Check this out, because Evan is looking totally lost, wondering if he chose the worst possible time. But then he starts overthinking the whole thing. Meanwhile, our boy nods, telling him to keep things quiet while promising to throw some serious funding their way. Next, he slides over a secret letter, telling him to deliver it to Yuta. Evan asks if it is important, but our main character warns that her eyes only must see it. He figured he should comfort her somehow, especially since she has been through absolute hell lately. Evan asks if it is really a sweet comfort letter and immediately promises to deliver it safely. With that, he heads right out of the mansion to hand the message over to Yukia. Back in his office, our boy admits he does not know if this will actually calm her down. But hey, it is better than nothing, and he tried. Now watch closely, because his real plan here is to use lines he memorized from the game, where the Archbishop tries to soothe the sin of wrath by reciting these specific words. The agony of darkness, the impassivity of light belongs to the fall. But in the game story, the sin of wrath did not care about that speech, and straight up blew the Archbishop's head right off. Screaming with pure rage that it was way too late. Yeah, those peace talks failed miserably every single time. That is how the boss fight starts, but this time around, maybe it is not too late. Now that he has dealt with one problem, he can move to the next. He laughs at how ridiculous it is befriending a monster with a single quote, but hey, those guys worship foreign gods anyway. Honestly, it is impossible to understand how their crazy minds work, since they are basically a bunch of psychopathic lunatics. And just like that, Evan hands the letter to Yukia, and she starts reading it with a completely blank stare. The knight is stunned, wondering what kind of creepy mana this even is. I mean, look at her, she is a completely emotionless, terrifyingly cold kid. With a dead serious face, she asks if he said that Lord Alan sent this message to her, and Evan is completely thrown off by her reaction. Because right now, she looks like a literal demon asking why he does not want her by his side, leaving our poor knight sweating bullets and completely speechless. He realizes that releasing mana like this is only possible for absolute masters of the craft. Terrified, he suddenly remembers Alan's warning that the time was not right just yet. And instantly, he knows exactly what to say. Shaking with nerves, he blurts out that his master said it is not time yet. Just like that, the girl calms down and says she understands, as she reads the exact phrase that the bishop once spoke to her. She gets super happy, smiling about a promise that only she and her master would ever know. She repeats that she understands, leaving Evan sweating even harder as she acts like a totally love-struck psycho. She claims she gets the message, and meanwhile our boy is back in his room half asleep, thinking to himself, he really wants to keep living this spoiled, luxurious lifestyle, and even the moon is shining bright tonight. He resolves to work extra hard tomorrow to upgrade his cozy life and rescue yet another demon. And bright and early next mornings, our boy is buried in the library with a mountain of books crashing onto his head. As he complains, he still cannot find what he needs, knowing tracking down the third boss will be brutal. But stick around, because Evan just ran in with massive news about saving that second kid. Alright, you and I are watching Alan make sure they actually rescued the kid and treated him right. Evan says absolutely, he did it right after snatching the kid from that shady slave trader. But right at that moment, to everyone's shock, someone completely crashes the room and starts smashing everything. And the very first thing he yells out is that his little bro Alan is finally here. This dude is Tonio Palacio, the Count's second son, and a total jerk. He immediately starts throwing major shade at our main guy. Asking why an illiterate scrub is holding a book, and watch closely, he starts mocking his studying. But he gets totally ticked off when Alan ignores him, demanding he show his big bro some respect. Meanwhile, our girl is just thinking this guy is a massive pain in the neck. No kidding, how did the original Alan even put up with this? He really wants to throw hands, but he's still way too weak, so he plays dumb. He bows to his brother, saying it looks like he wants to use the library. As Alan tries to leave, Tonio literally steps on his head, asking if he knows his place. Suddenly, something flies straight at his face, a sharp knife, and he's completely shocked by who threw it. Right behind him, another guy complains that they're being way too loud, saying he doesn't want to see a bloody mess first thing in the morning. He tells them to get lost immediately, and this cold-hearted dude is the eldest son, Leo Palacio. But the two brothers, who absolutely despise each other, just face off, telling him to stop. Leo warns him that he reeks of drugs and needs to leave while he still can. Meanwhile, our boy is slowly trying to sneak away in the corner, not wanting any of this smoke since he knows the Palacio family gets wiped out fast. Mostly because of a side quest. But they are way stronger than expected, and these two trash brothers are actively fighting to run the family. On one side, we have a major underworld boss, the king of brothels, and on the other, a massive drug cartel lord. He knows he can't mess with them if he wants to stay alive. You and I know he just wants to slip away with Evan to live a happy, quiet life, playing the weak, useless son. Soon, he gets back to his room with Evan, who says the second son seems totally crazy too. And our main character just stares at him, asking what he means by that. But Evan is still wondering how he even found out about the slave market and those crazy experiments in another region. It really seems like he has been prepping hard for all of this. Meanwhile, Alan is sprawled out on the couch, completely exhausted, while Evan comments on how strange he is for sending that kid to the orphanage. And our boy simply agrees that it was the right move. But Alan knows that kid isn't normal at all, and he is absolutely spot on about that. Because he is a walking natural disaster. In this massive world of allied nations, they just saved a kid in Kalian from those slave traders. He is actually the second boss, Deus Macalan. After being sold and abused everywhere he went in his past, he ended up becoming one of the 5 great sins, sloths. And trust me, he wiped out those kingdoms in the worst way. Alright, you and I are about to see the exact moment players realized how brutal this game is. And despite his goofy nickname, he was known as a hard worker who pays his dues, so he made sure to treat him super nicely. Alan explains the only reason he visited the orphanage is because the time is not right yet. And Evan says it is just as he expected. But he asks about the letter sent to Yusha, you know, the one about the second kid. And our main guy confirms it, where he basically sent a letter checking up on her and asking her to protect the kid he sent over. Meanwhile, at the orphanage, with Yusha running the show, the god Makaha was slumped in a corner, totally wrecked like a broken little kid. Now watch closely here, she walks right up and tells him he looks completely shattered. She asks if those scars are leftovers from that thing, like was it the black goat? This totally freaks the kid out, especially with her looking like a straight-up demon again. She tells him the Great Moon chose him anyway. So she congratulates him, telling him to feel his new power and let his crazy potential loose. And if he stays loyal and follows orders, he will get his sweet revenge, shocking the kid as some weird energy starts flowing out of him. While she reads her master's letter, noting that she should now send her reply with a nice little greeting. And the next day, back in the library, our boy is still wondering where the third sin is. But right then, Evan bursts through the door saying they have a massive problem and he doesn't even know how to explain it. And our guy asks what is going on, telling him to spit it out. But then he notices something off and asks if that piece of trash actually died. He totally hit the bullseye, his second brother. You feel that tension? Tonio Palacio bit the dust, and at the funeral our guy stares down the coffin. Meanwhile, over in the corner, his parents. Some noblewomen were thirsting after him, with one of them wondering how this could even happen. Saying she is super annoyed, while another just complains about being hungry and wanting to leave already. And she thinks to herself that she knew this family was messed up. But this is on a whole new level, giving off a total dark fantasy vibe. But in any case, for Tony to die like this from an accidental fall is completely different from what he actually remembers. Because in the game, his oldest brother was the one who killed him, bragging that he finally killed that worm after 50 years to become the heir and new Count Palacio. And staring at the long-haired guy, he sees the pure joy plastered on his face, like he thinks he's just incredibly lucky. Looking back at his dead brother, he realizes he still has other urgent problems to solve. So he cannot afford to worry about this right now. Basically, a whole year passes, and during this time, the succession issue gets wrapped up by Leo, who took charge of the cartel, making the county even more peaceful. Meanwhile, he and Yusha have ended up becoming regular pen pals, because he knows that keeping in touch with her will definitely pay off in the future. And reading through her letters, he remarks that these kids are genuinely good. And at the end of the letter is the list of sponsors. And trust me, you and I can see this list is growing fast, with tons of new sponsors backing up the orphanage. And Evan agrees with him. Alright, you and I are jumping right into a wild ride today, especially when our boy remembers what he was hunting for. Turns out, an info broker just hit him up with a massive lead they stumbled upon. Our boy is totally shocked, asking if they are legit, and honestly, it is a huge relief. He is thinking it must be ancient books about the third, and finally, he will find something. He is getting super hyped about this, because his life is finally going great, and honestly, it is super peaceful for once. But now, over in the shady slums of Margot City, two low-life thugs are strolling around. And the bald one is bragging about how generous the oldest Palacio family member is, constantly dropping massive rewards, while his buddy agrees that their organization is growing huge with hundreds of members. But then Krem steps out of the dark alley, and they are wondering what the hell is going on with all their agents dead on the ground. Suddenly, they notice the survivors have their own daggers and knives pressed right against their necks. And you're going to want to see this. The blonde guy suddenly realizes the bald dude is doing the exact same thing. And just like that, they all end their own lives. Meanwhile, a hooded figure slowly steps out of the alley, staring at the bloody scene with absolute indifference. And this person was Deus, and right behind him, Yusha appeared, saying she loved watching his puppet show today. It seems she has got more to report, but Deus seriously wonders if there is even any point to all of this. So Yusha asks if he actually feels bad for them. But Deus is like, nah, these guys are literally killing people to manufacture drugs. He is just not sure if this has anything to do with his revenge, but Yusha tells him it absolutely does. Look closely, this is just a setup to create a welcoming space for his return. And she asks how they could possibly leave the place messy when he finally gets back. Deus gets dead serious and says he understands. Then they both just vanish into thin air as she says. The blue moon will be his sword, with their inverted moon crest marked right in the middle of the city, marking the rise of an extremely dangerous new organization. And just like that, our boy has been trading letters with Yusha for 2 whole years. Back inside his mansion, Evan is walking around, searching all over for the young master. When he finally finds him, he collapses on the floor, completely wiped out, groaning that there he was, while our main character gives Evan a big thumbs up, saying the 5th, the final kid, got sent to the orphanage. Our protagonist gets seriously emotional about this because, man, it is finally over. And during this time, he saved the remaining sins, and as a thank you, he hands a little treat to Evan. As he plays with Evan like a puppy, he recalls how much of a headache it was to find Greed. But putting Evan to work using his gaming knowledge actually paid off big time. So he tells Evan that he did an absolutely amazing job and can finally go rest up now. Evan asks if this means he is officially off the hook for all those orphanage duties. And our main character says yes, making Evan feel incredibly relieved about the whole thing. But he stares at his master, asking if he is not happy. Our boy says yes, he's totally thrilled, but Evan claims he doesn't look it. Still, Alan keeps insisting he is. He is even smiling now, showing off a tiny micro-expression of pure joy. But inside his head, you and I know he never expected everything to go quite this smoothly. Especially in this damn game. Alright, you and I are about to dive into how these 5 sins ended up with such brutal, tragic pasts. Long before they became legends. Preventing their trauma was nearly impossible, and he was seriously worried about trying to save them after they had already been broken. But hey, everything worked out great. He asks Evan how the orphanage is doing, and Evan says it is running perfectly smooth, just like always. He even brought a letter mentioning that the kids used to act like broken dolls, but now they look bright and happy. This completely shocks our boy, making him realize they definitely need to hire some more caretakers. He honestly never expected Yusha to do such an incredible job with them. He wonders if it is because of his character's built-in trait of being super sentimental about the orphanage. Reading the letter, he admits she really is great at certain things. Evan asks about any big updates, so listen up. He reads through her updates saying that absolutely everyone is doing awesome and a few of them are growing like weeds, so he does not need to worry. On top of that, he should not stress about the other kids. That makes him super happy, realizing they are just growing up to be healthy, awesome kids. Seeing their progress, he can tell that a safe, warm environment is doing wonders for them. Evan asks when he finally plans to meet the kids, since he always promises to visit but never goes. But our main character secretly knows he actually plans to avoid meeting them forever. Because even if getting close sounds nice, those kids have intense, crazy personalities he would rather avoid entirely. Maybe it is because of the brutal way those 5 sins were born. But let's be real, you and I know saving them from those tragic events changes the whole game. Still, deep down, he is slightly terrified. So he tells Evan maybe in 5 years, and the loyal knight just nods along, agreeing. Our hero realizes he desperately needs powerful skills to protect himself in this crazy, dangerous fantasy world. Fortunately, he does not need magic talent since this body is already overpowered. Up ahead, Evan casually asks if he has ever heard about the Blue Moon Group. The boy instantly wonders what the heck that is. Since he has 0 clues, Evan explains they are a famous group known for hunting down criminals. Our guy shrugs, noting they are just taking out the garbage and hunting bad guys. That is awesome, but he realizes he has never once heard of this group. They probably won't last long. But Evan warns they even execute corrupt nobles, making them a very dangerous force to reckon with. Hearing that, our main character panics, quickly telling Evan to sleep right outside his bedroom door because things just got real. Night falls at the orphanage where Yusha starts their weekly report meeting, asking everyone for their updates. First, she asks about the North, and our little beast girl proudly replies that she ripped off all the slave traders' heads, looking incredibly cute despite the absolute brutality. Yup, this sweet girl is Sialring, the sin of pride. As she happily hops and dances around. She explains she would have let them live if they praised her eye color, but nobody did. Then the girl holding the book, Ryan, the sin of greed, mentions that their bodies were completely burned. And get this, guys. The boy on the stairs says he wrapped things up in the South, destroying every single illegal human testing facility and turning those Avalon bastards into complete history. Trust me, we start with thugs turned to ground meat. And this crazy dude is hidden, the sin of obsession. Then the big boss in the center says that is great to hear, everything is going according to his plan and they exist solely for the Blue Moon. And this is basically the massive secret organization working for the Blue Moon, which has been absolutely terrifying the entire world lately. But right then, their god says a new problem popped up. And her subordinate stares and asks what could go wrong when everything is perfect according to her will. But he asks her if the boss of Avalon isn't the Count's eldest son, who found a dangerous written order while he was down in the South, where this eldest son of the Count seems to be targeting your greatness. Now watch this, Yusha gets absolutely furious, radiating a terrifying dark aura that completely scares everyone in the room. She says she understands perfectly, starting to read the letter stating that after the Count dies, they must kill our boy with poison. And clutching that, She is filled with absolute rage, muttering that this guy has officially crossed the line. And to nobody's surprise, 2 years later, Count Palacio, who is our main character's dad, actually ends up dying, and our boy notes that they claimed it was just heart failure. But obviously, it was a lethal overdose. Meanwhile, some guys nearby are chatting, asking if the Blue Moon faction really struck again. And his subordinates confirm that they did, striking hard last night, asking if the others were also wiped out. Overhearing this, our boy realizes that people are finally starting to pay attention to this Blue Moon group. He knows that since nobody cared about the Count's death, everything quietly blew over. But think again. Things weren't actually that quiet, since his older brother had some shady scheme cooked up. Back in his room, his knight Evan asks him what he plans to do now. But right around this time, Evan notices something super weird going on and asks him, "What are all these bags?" Our hero simply tells him to pack their bags because they are escaping today, and Evan asks, "What do you mean escape today? Is your actual plan just to run away?" But Alon says not quite, they are just heading down to a lower post. And he asks if this lower post means the town of Rodmill, and our boy says that is exactly it. He is moving to Rodmill, a cozy little town south of Palacio. But as he leaves, his brother obviously glares at him, wondering what he should even do now. But not giving a single damn about his brother. He finally gets a house in Rodmill and whips up some breakfast in the morning. He and Evan are totally hyped, eating this home-cooked meal. But after just a 3-day vacation, our boy is forced to head back to the estate. Because it is time for his older brother's funeral, and he seriously can't believe he is back there. Alon wonders why he died so differently, and why the hell did he have to die now? He remembers they said he was stabbed through the heart, leaving him wondering who could have killed him. So he turns to a nearby knight and asks him about the exact cause of death. But that knight is incredibly scared to make eye contact, nervously apologizing just for looking at him. And as we wrap up, he is left wondering what the hell is wrong with all these guys. Alright, you and I are jumping into this wild ride where everyone is completely terrified of our boy. But the guy in the back tags along, and Alan immediately asks Evan what he thought of the whole thing. But Evan, looking dead serious, asks Alan if he was the one who wiped Avalon off the map in a single night, completely shocking our main character. He looks from side to side and realizes literally everyone is shaking in their boots. He starts wondering what the hell is actually going on here. But to understand this madness, we have to rewind the clock a bit. Shortly after Alan heads out to Rodmill, the knight in his carriage asks him if it wouldn't be way better for them to just head over to a much bigger city. But Alan is like, no way, absolutely never. Since Rodmill is the exact spot where he decided to settle down and save everyone. Preventing the apocalypse and stopping the ruin of this world was already dangerous and satisfying enough for him. Plus, Rodmill has absolutely nothing to do with the original storyline of the game. And Palacio Village is right there too, making it the perfect peaceful retreat for a noble. Now pay attention, because our boy just wants a lazy, chill life doing absolutely nothing at all. He strikes a cool pose and tells Evan that he has a very specific reason for this. But Evan tells him to stop playing around, since he always drops these mysterious lines when he's bored, while our boy just says good things are good. But watching the carriage roll away, his older brother starts wondering what to do with him and if he should just kill him off right now. Honestly, it really doesn't matter if the guy is alive or dead. He was actually planning to poison him to death the moment their father passed away. But since he quickly agreed to just pack up and leave quietly, there was no real reason left to kill him. Still, he wonders if this sudden change of plans means things are not going so great. But his younger brother really gets under his skin, so he calls Alman and orders him to tail that carriage. But Alman speaks up and asks if that order means he should take him out. This completely catches Leo off guard, because as far as he remembers, this guy never talked back. No matter what the order was. He wonders why the guy is asking questions now, and getting super annoyed, yells that it is his job to just shut up and do what he is told. But watch this, because Leo is about to be completely shocked. He suddenly takes a brutal sword slash straight to the chest, gasping about betrayal, but Alman just laughs and calls it a war game. It was fun until now. Turns out this guy Alman working for Leo was actually Hidden, a member of the Blue Moon group. And he tells Leo that they follow the beliefs taught to them by the legendary Red Moon. As the Blue Moon, he is that man's ultimate sword, so of course he only moves according to his master's desires. But if anyone even tries to hurt the Great Moon, he will take action on his own, completely finishing Leo off. He explains that he was just waiting for Leo to say those exact words, thinking to himself that it took 2 whole years. Leo, barely clinging to life, wheezes that his loyal subordinates will never let him escape. But Almond just smiles and replies that with a single word, Avalon is going to vanish completely. And it is honestly pretty sad because the Great Moon gave him a golden opportunity. But he totally blew it as Almond simply vanishes into thin air. Meanwhile, the legendary Great Moon, who has absolutely no clue about what is actually going on, had just woken up early in his brand new city, stretching and enjoying the beautiful, peaceful morning where he can finally wake up whenever he wants and eat whatever he likes. He is living like a true noble now, and you and I have to admit, his idea of opening a toast shop is hilariously wild. Alright, you and I are diving into a wild ride where Evan suddenly drops some crazy news on our young master. Alan starts reading the letter but immediately yells, "What the absolute hell is this?" It says right there that due to the death of Leo Palacio, they are demanding that Alan Palacio returns to the mansion, leaving him completely jaw-dropped, and just like that, his cozy little vacation was officially over for good. So back to the present. That is how he got dragged back to the Palacio mansion, and he is seriously wondering why everyone is acting so weird. Meanwhile, Evan asks him one more time if he really went and became the ultimate shadow leader, while our boy asks what crazy crap he is even talking about, looking totally depressed, completely lost on what to do. He begs Evan to explain what the hell is going on and why he suddenly became the bad guy out of nowhere. Evan points out he is the only one winning. Now pay attention, right after he left the estate, Leo was brutally murdered while he has a perfect alibi, which completely leaves poor Alan in absolute shock. And Evan keeps going, saying Avalon is done for, plus with Lilina's death nobody will bother them anymore. Meaning he must be the county's true shadow leader who ordered the hit on his own brother. Alan asks if he honestly thinks this is funny, because he seriously has no clue how this happened. No way. Any normal group could take down an underworld boss in an instant like it was absolutely nothing. But then he realizes there was actually one group that specialized in hunting down other syndicates. And Evan agrees, saying it has to be the Blue Moon. Our boy says it might be them, but Evan counters that the intel says they are not involved in this mess. The Blue Moon always leaves a distinct mark behind instead of just a cold body. However, word is that the Avalon members were sliced by a sword and the gates of hell were opened. And shaking with fear, our boy realizes, wait, you and I are looking at the shadow leader who allegedly killed his brother. But then, he starts thinking that this Blue Moon group never even showed up in the original game. So there is no way these weaklings are actually behind this. Still, he has no idea who did it. Meanwhile, at the Blue Moon hideout, their leader, Red Moon, asks if they found any traces at all. But the girl nearby says nope, they left absolutely nothing, and Cial confirms it was just instant, clean slashes. Right then, 2 others show up. Deus announces that 486 Avalon soldiers were completely wiped out, and look, Raiden is right behind them. Just as he promised, he sliced them all right in half, while the psycho Yusha says this is perfect. And that is basically how Avalon, this massive syndicate that ruled the Asteria Kingdom, was turned to dust in just 5 short days. Then Raiden walks up to Yusha, claiming the cleanup was not entirely flawless, and she asks him what he actually means by that. He explains they need to control the situation, especially since the nobles linked to Avalon and the Altia Duchy have a super deep connection with them. Yusha starts reading the files and she immediately gets furious, basically saying that they already know exactly what is coming, while Deus, the 2 girls, and Raiden hyped up say they will handle this sneaky mission. After they drop that line, she sighs with relief and asks another quick question, wondering if this intel is actually reliable, and Ryan says yes. And this whole deal is being handled separately from the Blue Moon. Deus chimes in, saying that all these guilds act the exact same way. And trust me, we are about to see the power of this hellish sword master. You and I are jumping right into a messy web of secrets, starting with R asking if she should keep mimicking the moves. T says yes, but nobody else can find out. But he already knows that. Except the god says this threatens his family. But she argues it wasn't an order and they are just swords. She asks if a sword can't think for itself and if Blue Moon only moves when ordered. They better remember that because he knows everything and letting him down is not an option, making everyone super nervous. But the god, looking a bit suspicious, says he doesn't get one thing. For someone with such crazy skills, why does Yuta feel so anxious just because she's scared of getting caught? It's honestly pretty wild. But quickly changing the subject, he tells Yuta he understands, and it's all for the great moon and him. Now pay attention because we're heading back to our boy who's currently stuck inside the family head's office. Which is actually his job now, buried under scrolls and screaming that he can't take this anymore. Since his brother's funeral, he's got a whole month of backed-up paperwork and he's drowning in work. All he wants to do right now is just go outside and grab some food. Honestly, isn't that what fancy nobles are supposed to do? Sure, he made some enemies, but Leo wasn't supposed to die for another 6 years. The game's whole death pattern is totally shifting. So now all this boring paperwork falls right onto him, the new heir. Right on cue, some old dudes kick the door open, greeting the young master with piles of more papers. Exhausted, he wonders why everyone is suddenly working so hard, since they used to slack off when the count was around. They procrastinated as much as possible. But since our boy always looks deadpan, the old guys assume he's furious. So they're working like crazy because they don't want to get executed. Alan wonders if they're grinding so hard because of the rumors that he's some sort of evil mastermind. But between you and me, he's just a regular wage slave who wants to work in peace. Later on, while chatting with Evan admits he's totally caught off guard and asks him point blank, "What is up with this random ball and do you actually want to go?" The scene instantly shifts to a massive, fancy party with our boy Evan stepping right into the venue. He complains that he's already exhausted, but this is a high society party for the Southern nobles. It's basically a massive networking event, and since he'll be a count soon, he should probably use this chance to build some solid connections. Making friends with the elites is absolutely crucial for his peaceful future. But the second he starts walking through the crowd, everyone freaks out and runs away from him. Terrified to get anywhere near him, when he tries saying hello, a guy literally screams and bolts. Watching from the sidelines, Ivo starts cracking up, telling him not to take it too hard. But our main man is like, "Look, I'm not actually upset, not really. Honestly, this was totally expected anyway." He tells Evan, who caught up with him, that he knows these snobs look down on him for his low-class background. Unlike his highly respected great-grandfather, the current Palacio family is basically a bunch of thugs, but he definitely didn't show up here to get bullied. So he grabs a glass of wine, ready to show off those secret social skills he's been practicing. So he smoothly approaches a girl and mentions that this wine is incredibly unique, especially with its very distinct fragrance. He admits he'd love some bottles at home, and trust me, you'll want to see what happens next. You and I are starting this off with our guy flashing his friendly smile, which looks totally psycho. And the poor girl completely freaks out, running away terrified while screaming that she is telling her dad to send guards to their estate. He tries to tell her she has got it all wrong and should calm down, but she just runs off. Meanwhile, the nobles gossip in the back, whispering that he basically just extorted some exclusive regional wine out of her family, no questions asked. They think he is just a huge troublemaker, exactly like his brothers. Standing right beside him, Evan tries his best to comfort our poor hero once again. But Alon is in total denial, convincing himself the young lady is just incredibly shy, not absolutely terrified of him. He even tries to mingle with the other nobles once more. Basically, the night ends with zero social connections, and Evan starts teasing him about all the random stuff he won. The hysteric piña, some crafted metal, and a special bottle of melatonin wine. Our guy is completely depressed, groaning that he even studied up on wine for this event, but then Now pay attention here, he suddenly realizes Palladio has gotten way more famous than expected from all the crazy rumors. Naturally, everyone is avoiding him, meaning his dream of social climbing is officially over. So he says goodbye to Evan for now, heading outside to get some fresh air. But over in the shadows, some random kid is watching him closely, murmuring that he must be the Count's heir. Stepping outside, our main character stares up at the night sky, deeply wondering where his life went so wrong. But right behind him, a voice asks if he has a quick minute, making him super excited that someone actually wants to talk to him. But when he turns around, there is absolutely nobody standing there. But then he looks down and freezes. There is a little girl stating she is Roria, daughter of Duke Altia. You and I know that family means trouble, and Alon realizes it makes total sense. As far as he knows, the Altia family is a major dark syndicate, notorious as the troublemakers of the North. Based on what he remembers about them, there is absolutely no way she is just some normal kid. But he cannot figure out why she is here since he never saw her in the game database. Roria looks incredibly nervous, stammering that she wants to be direct and needs him to lend her his immense strength, which completely shocks Alon as he wonders what on earth this random kid is talking about. She continues shaking and tells him she is about to be assassinated soon, leaving him totally flabbergasted. After hearing that insane confession, our guy wonders why she is suddenly asking for his help out of nowhere. But she begins spilling her story, explaining she was raised quietly as the daughter of her father's mistress. But the Duke's health has plummeted, and her half-sisters will definitely try to kill her once he dies. Hearing this, our guy realizes she is talking about the downfall of two major figures in the Count's family. But he still cannot remember her and assumes she must have died before the actual game even started. The little girl looks super cute and incredibly anxious, pleading that with the power of Lord Alon, she might actually have a fighting chance. But he immediately tells her he has to refuse, shocking her as she quickly adds it won't be charity. If he saves her, she will give him half of her massive fortune. But our guy simply tells her he is leaving, making her even more frantic, leaving her completely speechless as he walks away, thinking he cannot even keep himself safe, let alone her safety, even if you and I know he wants to help. Trust me, he is nothing like those crazy rumors say. But he looks back, spots her looking sad in the corner, and feels bad for her. So he sighs, wishing her luck and hoping she finds herself a super strong ally. And as soon as he heads back to the party, a god is watching him from above, noting that she just got close to the great moon and wonders if they should show her some mercy now. But Ryan tells him no way. Everything is going super smoothly. And according to their secret intel, she is the only one not connected to Avalon, and she has nothing to do with Raiden's mission. The god says that complicates things and means the rest of them are going to die. And Ryan agrees with that. But they are going to proceed under the Red Moon's orders, making sure to block all information so it never reaches him, because he absolutely cannot know about this mission. Meanwhile, as our boy is walking through the party. But watch closely because there is this weird barrier pushing everyone away from him, making him super bored. But suddenly this cute girl appears right next to him, waving hello to our hero. While on the inside, he is secretly thrilled that someone actually wants to talk to him. So now he can finally switch on his social mode and say hey back to the girl. But once he gets a good look, he instantly recognizes her as another mysterious character who lives in the shadows. And obviously, he knows someone like her wouldn't just casually approach him unless they were in deep trouble. So he politely greets Lady Zenonia, and she acts totally surprised that he already knows her. And Alon tells her that, of course, she is pretty famous for certain things. Meanwhile, he recalls that in the Asteria Kingdom there are 3 major underworld houses, like Northern Aelia, Western Palatio, and Zenonia, known as the pickpockets of the West. You and I both know she is trouble, yet she casually asks if she is really that famous. She is the oldest daughter of Count Zenonia, named CIA, and our boy knows that while Palatio runs a basic street gang, Zenonia is actually a massive criminal syndicate, making him shake with absolute terror on the inside. Realizing he only wants normal connections to live a super peaceful and quiet life. For the sake of his easy life, he cannot get involved with her, so he bows again and says she looks absolutely stunning. She cheerfully thanks him. But then she looks at him dead serious, asking if they can chat while our boy says he would love to. But too many eyes are on them. Of course, that is a total lie since he just wants to escape immediately. But she just stares and says that is fine, noting he is exactly like the rumors and she cannot wait to see him again. This bizarre reaction totally catches our hero off guard as she simply walks away, leaving him standing there completely puzzled, wondering what that was even supposed to mean. But little does he know, Ryan was watching the entire exchange. And the god mentions they have a problem, as someone is still tracking the Great Moon and it feels like they are being followed, but Ryan replies they have no new orders, telling him to stay alert and wipe out the others. But with a quick cut to the next morning, Alon and Evan show up at the canyon and the knight asks if this is the gorge he wanted to see, saying it is noon. but it is still pitch black inside. While our boy, who spent the whole night searching, says he finally found his target, and trust me, it matches up spot on. As they head inside, he says if it's empty, he'll cry. Trust me, you and I want this to work. Man, he thought finding this in-game was easy. But honestly, the sole reason he traveled south was because of this dungeon right here. The Whisper Labyrinth. Solve the puzzles in all 8 rooms, and he gets an incredibly broken high-tier artifact as a reward. And naturally, he memorized every single puzzle route, and before long, they hit the first major doorway. Our boy is totally stunned, muttering that it looks way different from the game, and it looks absolutely massive in real life, completely blowing away everything he saw during his countless hours of play. Beside him, Evan speaks up, pointing out that this massive canyon looks totally artificial, almost like someone built it. Then he asks how he even knew about this place. While our boy casually claims he just visited a few times, making Evan raise an eyebrow in disbelief, since he never saw him leave the mansion before. Realizing he said too much, he changes the subject, jokes around about having his secrets, and tells him to just get inside. And Evan tells him to stop playing around. And watch closely, because that face, absolute gold. As soon as they step inside, they see massive monsters brutally crushing other beasts. Shaking with fear, Evan mutters that one wrong move on these puzzles and they get flattened without mercy. After clearing the first chamber, they quickly move to the second. While Evan desperately wonders what the hell is happening and how his master stays so chill during this madness. They have worked together for 4 years now. Yet he still cannot read him. His missions have zero pattern, ranging from wiping out gangs, rescuing orphans, paying off random debts, helping slaves, and delivering completely bizarre messages. It makes absolutely zero sense. The kid barely left the estate, yet knows everything about this world. Up ahead, Alan proudly announces his success, but says he only unlocked 2 mechanisms. I know what you're thinking, but the reason Evan follows his young master is actually pretty simple. Somehow everything he touches turns to gold, but still, what on earth is he planning this time? Finally, after what feels like forever, our main guy reaches the exact spot he wanted. Meanwhile, Evan gasps that they made it to the vault, and our boy agrees, saying he is grabbing the ring and heading out. While Evan, loaded up with heavy gold bars, points out that the ring looks totally worthless. But Alan objects, warning him that stealing anything else will trigger massive trouble, happily holding up the ring with a big grin. Thrilled that he finally secured the oath of restraint, with his prize safely secured in hand. They make their exit, the MC thinking this was a total breeze since he already knew the in-game route. But to Evan's complete shock right ahead, he nervously asks Alan if this was part of the plan. Staring down giant golems blocking the exit, he panics, realizing this is a brand new, undocumented threat. This is the absolute worst case. But if he can keep his young master safe, they will get out alive. But right then, Alan steps up, confidently telling him to leave this fight to him. Evan protests, arguing that regardless of what he is planning, finding an escape route needs to be priority number 1. But then his eyes dart to our boy, watching in horror as the golems wind up to crush him. He screams for his master to get back, but trust me, we both know second-level magic won't cut it. But wait. Alright, you and I are about to watch our boy cast a wild vow spell. He summons the restriction vow, reaches for the sky, and suddenly a blinding flash freezes time. Space and time literally crack open, and this spooky voice starts talking about a fragment of Niala's will. He has to name 2 nerfs he can handle, and our boy Alan is sweating buckets. Remember, in the actual game, this was just a pop-up menu, but now, a real voice. It feels like some ancient god-level entity is staring him down. The literal lord of heavenly restrictions. Shaking like a leaf, he admits this booming voice makes everything feel way too real. Now watch closely as the giant entity demands him to speak, and our boy delivers. For the first nerf, he vows to always use Babylon hand signs whenever he casts spells. The ancient giant asks what kind of cheat code he expects for that. He demands the power to bend the literal laws of physics just a tiny bit. And just like that, the wish is granted. Then for nerf number 2, he promises to only chant his spells in the dead Babylonian tongue. The entity asks what he wants in return, and our boy says he wants crazy power to straight up defy reality. The god goes dead silent for a second. Our main character starts sweating bullets, wondering if he somehow made a mistake or totally messed up the complex hand gestures. He knows that stacking both hand signs and ancient chants is the ultimate shortcut to unlocking max magical damage. Since he ran this game endlessly, he memorized every single cheat combo by heart. Let us see if his extreme gamer brain actually pays off. Finally, the entity grants it, calling him the only mortal who remembers the forbidden signs of a forgotten god. The god praises his dedication and passes down his ancient will. This completely catches Alan off guard, leaving him wondering what the hell inheriting a god's will even means. But right after that, his magical ring tightens on his finger, proving the restriction vow is officially active. He snaps back to reality to find Eva screaming at him to run, but he knows just escaping won't be enough. But our boy remains cool as ice, raising his hand while realizing his flashy lightning spell actually looks pretty pathetic right now. Even when he pours in literally all his mana. No matter how hard he trains. This is his absolute limit, so it is time to unleash the cheat powers he just unlocked. With the glowing energy ball hovering right before his eyes, he raises his arm, waiting for the massive golems to charge. Then, he casts the refraction spell, causing the condensed lightning to explode outward, completely shocking him with its massive scale. And next he casts the repulsion spell, making the sparks fly wilder before conjuring an indigo light to form an even larger energy sphere. And finally, he shoots the refraction line. With a super casual hand flick that looks almost effortless, he launches the massive sphere, obliterating every single golem instantly. This completely shocks Evan, who is left wondering where this godlike power came from. The stray lightning bolts pierce right through the golems, freezing them solid even after the spell fades away. Seconds later, they crumble into dust right before their eyes, leaving behind total and absolute devastation. And just like that, our path is completely clear, wild right? Alright, let's dive right in. A shocked Evan wonders what the hell Alan just did, asking if he was secretly hiding his real power, but Alan completely denies it. Still a surprised Evan says he has never seen anything like this in 15 years as a mercenary. Alan is only at the second magic circle, so how is this possible? But Alan just nods. This should not be possible. Honestly, even in his own head, he does not understand what is going on. It was not like this in the game, but in real life, he is way more powerful. In this game's turn-based battle system, magic could only be cast each turn by using specific incantations or hand signs. And this time he used a chain lightning spell, combining 4 incantations and hand signs for a total of 5 turns. Basically, it was just a supercharged thunder spell, but on top of that, due to his restrictions, he must use hand signs and incantations for any spell. Now watch closely, this is why his magic got so strong. But even so, one-shotting those golems at only the second circle. The results completely blew away his expectations, leaving even him shocked. Once they leave, Evan complains that this is way more exhausting than actual combat, asking who on earth created such a hellish place. Meanwhile, our boy keeps thinking about it. Come to think of it, the Whispering Labyrinth actually had a completely different name. The location and tutorial were posted on the community forum under the name Labyrinth of Palon. So he tells Evan that a guy named Palon built it, and Evan asks who that even is. But our boy notices that Evan is totally wiped out. So he grabs him to head out. As they walk, Alan realizes that if he matches his hand signs to the attribute of the spell's effect, his power will boost, and choosing the right incantation will enhance its elemental properties. I know what you are thinking, that is just standard game logic. But unlike the game, where the visuals stay the same and only the numbers increase, he noticed that the spell literally transforms with each incantation, and watching those shifts might help him master his mana control. He wants to test this later, but for now he is just relieved it worked. But as they head out, Ren watches everything from the shadows, then quickly runs down into the canyon. Getting there, she reads the ancient writings, recognizing them as scriptures of the Elaine Empire from the era of forgotten outer gods. She looks around. She looks from side to side and deciphers the text, which says he was left all alone by that coward Palon. She starts touching the glyphs, recalling the one who stopped the Dark Invasion and defeated Alculaka, the monster that devoured the hearts of innocent civilians. The bright Emperor Palon. She knows all this because she was born with the Ancestral Library, an absolutely broken cheat skill. Then she remembers Alan telling Evan that Palon was the creator of this place. She already knew Alan was special since the Bloody Queen followed him, a detail lost to history. Something only found in ancient legends. But she never expected the Great Moon to be friends with Palon. However, the phrase he whispered does not even exist in the ancestral library. She is left deep in thought, desperately wondering who he really is. Leaving the canyon, she blushes, leaving us wondering if the Red Moon was right all along. Let's dive in as she regrets blindly following orders. But then the god pops up behind her and she asks what he is doing there gathering info. But the god says no way, announcing that the dark guy is dead with his head twisted midair. Kelline tells him to report that, and the two of them just bounce from the canyon that night. Meanwhile, over in the Zenonia territory, Kaha is sipping her tea and says it was not just a rumor, saying he is cold and calculating, has eyes like an abyss, and even called her famous. The Zenonia house is strong and famous. But he called her famous even though she avoids social events, which is honestly so fascinating. She walks over to the old man and asks if he agrees with her, calling him Count, who is actually her own father. Watch closely because with a sharp snap of her fingers, the old man totally changes. He basically turns into a puppet, and she brags that absolutely nobody knows about it. That she puppeted her father just so she could run the entire family. She wonders how the guy even figured it out. But then she realizes he probably had his eyes on her this whole time. Right then, a servant rushes over to Kaha and says they have a major problem. She asks what is wrong and he tells her she needs to check her room immediately. Once she steps inside, she finds one of her associates with a broken neck. The servant adds that since his seal was not triggered, he did not spill any secrets. Kaha realizes the culprit dumped the body in her room on purpose. She wonders how that guy figured it out, realizing he spotted her weakness during their meeting. He is seriously impressive. But that guy she thinks is a mastermind is actually just chilling in his carriage, completely clueless about all this drama. Now we cut to the Duke of Alia's estate, where Loria rides in her carriage, knowing he is not normal. The underworld big shot has the exact same cold eyes as her father, making him a dangerous enemy. He was literally her absolute last hope. But obviously he would never accept a deal. That brought him losses, especially since her siblings snatched everything she owned. Her eldest brother Timian, the eldest daughter Marianne, the second daughter Firin, and second son Keg, so she basically has absolutely nothing. Arriving at the Duke's estate at last, she thinks about how she only survived this long on her dad's mercy, totally unsure of her next move, but as she steps inside, a maid screams out for Lady Loria, relieved that she is finally back. She frantically announces that Firin and Keg have committed suicide, shocking the girl completely as she wonders how those who actively ruined her family just took their own lives. This makes absolutely zero sense. Panicking, she quickly asks the maid how Timian and Marianne are doing. Just then, another scream echoes, and rushing to Timian's room, they find he killed the girl while she also killed him. Staring at the carnage, Loria freezes in pure shock, having absolutely no idea what the hell is happening. But slipping out the back of the mansion like nothing even happened. Rad is totally hyped, celebrating that all targets were successfully wiped out. And that is where we leave the Duke's mansion in absolute chaotic ruins. Alright, you and I are diving into a wild twist here. She remembered Alan's words about how good things could happen, wishing her some serious luck. Now she's wondering who is actually pulling the strings in the Count's mansion, hiding their claws for the perfect strike. And shaking in her boots, she tries to convince herself he didn't mean that. And honestly, just like him, she became the sole heir to the family fortune while shaking under a dark, absolutely terrifying sky. She wonders what kind of literal demon she just made a deal with, but there is no backing out now. But she still wonders what happens to backstabbers, but despite all the crazy possibilities, she is stuck walking the path she chose. Fast forward 2 whole months later, and a servant shows up at our main character's office, claiming he is there on the Duke of Alia's orders. Our boy is totally lost. What do you mean, Duke of Alteria? Evan asks what that is, and looking closely, it is an insanely expensive bottle of Sarence wine. He heard those cost thousands of dollars a bottle and never expected to see one in real life. And the little note just says, "With respect, Loria." But wait, pay attention here. Why on earth did she send him this? He is completely clueless as to why she gifted this, so he asks the servant, "Are you sure this is for me?" And the servant is like, "Yes, absolutely." The Duke personally gave it to him to deliver, leaving our main character totally baffled. What do you mean a Duke? But then he smells something fishy. So that means that little girl actually became the Duke. Back at the estate, Loria is stretching out, thinking about how those 2 months flew by in a flash. After her sick father's funeral, she officially took over the title during the grand ceremony. Before this, she couldn't even step into this office, and her brother's deaths were incredibly sudden. But she was completely off the hook since she had a rock-solid alibi with Alan. Around that time, her secret organization got completely wiped out by her own brothers. So when she returned to the mansion, now think about it, she was totally powerless when everything suddenly flipped. Thinking he used the chaos to his advantage, acting completely unbothered while playing the field, while secretly pulling off a flawless cleanup job behind the scenes. She's still anxious, wondering how on earth he predicted the future like that. She didn't even mention her father's funeral to him at all. But she figures he only helped her because she fits into his master plan somewhere along the line. Even though she managed to rally all the organizations under Alia, it is still not enough to secure her power. Which means he definitely wants something from her. She knows Palacio is a major player in the underworld, rising purely through business. And if there is one thing he lacks, it has got to be the power to pull political strings from the shadows. So what he needs is the name of Alia. For now, she must focus on what she has to do because that big shot will contact her soon, and she hopes he liked her gift. But getting back to our boy. The butler bows out while our main character sits there completely frozen in shock, realizing she cheated death and actually became a duchess. But he still knows something is seriously off about this. And that's where we leave it, 5 months later, marking 5 years since this story started. Let's join our boy chilling in his massive mansion. Evan sneaks up behind him and says he can't call him young master anymore, he's officially a count now. But Alan says, hold up, the ceremony hasn't even happened yet. Evan thinks it's totally fine since they are basically on a whole new level anyway. But our boy Alan slumps over, thinking he really didn't want to become a count. It completely ruins his plans for a lazy, happy life, but this is the hand he was dealt. So he's gotta make the absolute most of it. But he quickly changes the subject, asking why Evan is here, and Evan hands over a letter from Yusha. Alan immediately asks if they found any dirt on who actually killed Leo. But Evan says there is still nothing, though the guild is on it. He sits down and asks what Alan's real goal is now, assuming it's not revenge. Meanwhile, Alan figures all these tiny butterfly effects from the original game are totally on him. So he tells Evan he's just prepping for the worst, preparing for unexpected curveballs, and Evan smiles, saying he finally sounds like a real count. Our boy says of course, but check this out, he starts reading the letter. He's super curious to find out what those kids have been up to lately. In the letter, she writes that she's doing great and everyone is just focusing on their hobbies. Especially Deus, whose ventriloquism skills are seriously on a professional level now. Too bad he has no clue that Deus's puppets are actual human bodies. She also mentions that Seorang loves playing around with her friends, while Ryan is always reading and multitasking like a champ. And Raiden is apparently super into gardening now. Alan thinks this monthly update has become a sweet little routine, and it really warms his heart to read it. But let's be real, you and I know these kids are absolute monsters. And then Alan turns to Evan, realizing something kind of important. He randomly asks how old those kids actually are, and Evan is totally surprised by the question. But he says they should be getting ready to enter society, so they must be around that age by now. Boom, that cute little kid image completely shatters in Alan's head when he realizes they are basically fully grown adults now. So he says, it might be time to set them free, which completely shocks Evan, who asks if he didn't put them there for a reason. But Alan says there is no point keeping them locked up since they're all grown up now. So it is time to decide their own future, thinking he raised them well enough so they wouldn't become the 5 great sins. So they should be totally fine, and from what he remembers, every boss fight in the game had its own lore drop revealed by the narrator. Yusha had the talent of faith, while Deus had a crazy talent for the sword. Ryan was a genius at studying. Seorang had the raw talent for fighting, and Rad was a gifted apostle. If they just play their cards right, they are going to absolutely crush it in life. But for now, he might as well get some cool graduation gifts ready. By evening, our boy finally says he is done, just as Evan is waking up from his nap. Evan grabs the letter while still drooling, saying he will be right back while Alan waves him off, hoping his investments pay off big once they grow up. And that's where we leave it. Let's hope those kids start their wild adventures across the world. Alright, you and I are cutting straight to the Blue Moon's secret base where Yusha announces that new orders are in, and their boss actually sent personalized letters to everyone. Which catches everyone off guard. Xiaoring is super hyped about having her own letter, and Ryan is loving it too. Meanwhile, Yusha is dying of curiosity to find out what exactly he sent to each member. So Yusha chimes in, warning the squad that they need to read up first, reminding them that these are extremely top-tier classified orders. Xiaoring eagerly asks if she can finally open the secret letters meant only for her eyes. But Deus points out that since the boss sent individual letters to everyone, it means they are all cleared to read them. When they open the first letter, our boy's message leaves them totally baffled. He just casually asks how they are doing, talks about making talented friends, and offers help if they ever need it. Ryan looks closely and says it honestly reads like a super casual chat. Now pay attention because Yusha explains that is exactly how he operates. He always masks his secret orders inside casual small talk, telling Ryan to check further. Take a look at this, which was his very first order after that initial thank you note. He literally spells out their target and instructs them to report back once the job is done. That specific letter was when he officially handed her control of the Blue Moon. They were clearly handpicked for this, but over on the side, Deus is looking pretty skeptical. Though he eventually nods, realizing this clever method prevents any critical information leaks. Yusha tells them to lock in, grasp their secret orders, and execute the plan. Deus wonders if it would be simpler for their boss to just visit or give them magic communicators. But Yusha gets dead serious at that, warning him that she hopes they never forget their duty to obey every single order. Deus just stares back, feeling her incredibly intense, unshakable aura, before quickly promising that he will never forget it. Meanwhile, Xiaoring is over there, super thrilled that they can finally open up their individual letters to see their fates. Now check this out, Deus is commanded to head straight to Caliburn, the land of nights, while Xiaoring gets sent to the colony desert, complaining about how much she hates sand. Raiden gets assigned to Raxus, the ultimate city of pleasure, while Ryan's destination is Lartania, the famous labyrinth city. Yusha is incredibly excited to find out she is heading to the Holy Kingdom of Rosario. She asks if their specific instructions are written down, and they all nod in agreement. Deus has no clue why the boss wants him to become a knight, while Xiaoring happily notes he promised to sponsor them. Ryan adds that he even marked down the secret locations of hidden gifts. Raiden shrugs, saying they will figure everything out once they actually arrive at their destinations. Yusha smiles in the center, saying that is absolutely perfect. But she warns them to remember one golden rule until their master says otherwise. Never speak the name Blue Moon. The next morning, the squad leaves the orphanage, heading off in separate directions. Fast forward 3 months into the future. We find our main character sitting in his office, muttering that everything is going as expected. There are no mentions of magic changes or phrases, so he will have to test things himself. But then it clicks and he asks Evan how a certain thing is going. Specifically, he wants an update on the investigation into Leo's death. Evan admits they have found absolutely nothing yet, which genuinely surprises our boy since this feels like this wild butterfly effect is spinning out of control. Stick with me to see how he stops these 5 deadly sins. Alright, let's dive into a story where even Loria, who should be dead by now, has become the Duke of Al, rapidly expanding her incredibly terrifying underworld influence. Because of this, Alan tells Evan to drop the whole investigation. The knight asks if he is being serious, while our hero or villain actually keeps on thinking that playing dumb and staying ignorant is the best thing he can do. Since in the game, almost nothing could ever escape the Information Guild's massive intelligence network. So it is definitely smarter not to look for trouble. After thinking it over, he wraps up the discussion, not wanting to mess with big shots. After all, that is how secret organizations operate. And they will not bother him if he just stays out of their way. Now pay attention here, he tells Evan that continuing this investigation makes absolutely no sense. And Evan agrees, saying he was right to stop doing this. But then he shares some other news, and apparently Deus has become a Knight of Caliber. And Alon, not surprised at all by this, says it is good for him. And after that, another 3 months pass, and Evan goes to Count Alon to report that Deus has formed his own order of knights. This shocks our hero, who says Deus must be at least an expert level or higher to lead an organization, since he knows the bottom of the combat food chain is the simple sword user, followed by the expert and finally the legendary sword master. But he wonders how, since it has not been long since he started. And Evan says that people have been talking about this, claiming the world will see the 15th Master Knight in less than 10 years. And yeah, I know what you're thinking. Our boy gets super excited and asks if he means the swords of Caliber. And Evan says yes, that is exactly it. And Caliber must be celebrating right now. Then another time skip takes us 6 months forward, making it basically a year since he left the orphanage, which is about the same amount of time he has been acting as the Count. And inside the office, Evan is sharing some huge news, saying that Deus has become a sword of Caliber, making him the 15th Master Knight, which completely shocks our boy, who is not expecting this at all. And he points out that only true sword masters can become Master Knights, because from what he knows of this world, a sword master is a superhuman who went beyond the aura blade and unlocked a unique derivative ability. And very few characters were ever able to do that. So he immediately asks Evan if he is saying that Deus is actually a sword master now. But Evan explains that, to be more precise, he is just about to become one, since he has not created his unique derivation yet. Yet the nation still granted him the title of Master Knight, especially after he not only won a duel against the Fourth Sword, but the Sibo also lost a knight in the battle against the Northern Barbarians. And our Count says that makes sense, since they must have been at war for a decade now. And Evan mentions that gathering mana and mastering it takes about 15 years, and creating a derivation should take decades too. And from what our protagonist knows, the first sword, Harriet, was 32 years old when he became the youngest Master Knight. And this character showed up in the third main episode, stating that he was the legendary Harry who had been wielding a sword since the age of 5, and Alon still remembers him because he knows he is insanely strong, and even with his talent, it took 20 years to reach that level. And now a clueless kid is a Master Knight. You and I know things are getting crazy. Is he just waiting to awaken? Stick with me here. That means he already surpassed Herod as a Master Knight. He even tells Evan they might use him sooner than they originally expected. Or maybe not, while staring at the only letter he received this whole time. But Evan is like, no way, they would never do that. But our boy points out he only gets letters from Eudia and absolutely nothing from the other 4. He starts thinking about how after he went to the Holy Kingdom, Yu's letters constantly complained while sharing updates about the 5 great sins. They actually stayed in touch, and even though they never met him face to face, they could have at least thanked him for his gift. This really bums him out. But he slaps his face, telling himself to focus. He is just glad they're not going to destroy the entire world. Trying to comfort himself, he says as long as they are okay, he is happy. Now watch as we cut directly to Caliber, the central district of Querda. Inside a high-ranking noble's massive mansion where the famous knights of the solar eclipse are staying. Looking down at the knights is Deus, decked out in heavy armor. And now he has become the captain of the solar eclipse knights, making him the youngest Master Knight ever. Down below, he spots a girl who looks up and calls him her little brother. And believe it or not, Deus, the total psychopath, smiles right back at her, suddenly remembering that it has already been a whole year. But thinking of his past brings back the shame of when he lost everything to those dark, shadowy monsters. His sister was dragged away without him, having a single chance to defend her, leaving him with nothing but an uncontrollable rage and also, of course, absolute pure hatred. Just because the Great Moon saved him, but you and I know that is not enough to buy his loyalty. But since she promised him sweet revenge, he happily followed every order of the Blue Moon. Working for the Blue Moon meant facing non-stop dangerous situations and brutal, extreme training. Still, he did not care about his own safety, spending years on critical missions to destroy those dark, shadowy monsters. Then he got a direct order, and while reading, he wondered if this letter was truly from the Blue Moon. It said his supposed gift was waiting for him inside a hotel located in southern Caliber. Back then, he did not care about any stupid presents. But as soon as he arrived at the spot, wondering what this gift could possibly be, he was left completely speechless. Because the Great Moon's gift was actually the family he thought he had lost forever. They had officially become his entire reason for living now. This single gift was infinitely more precious to him than his very own life. Deus realized his sister, Kilachug, whom he assumed was long dead, was actually alive. Staring at Cell, he desperately asks her what happened. Sitting down together, she starts sharing her story, explaining that after those dark things separated them in the pitch black, she had to wait a very long time for her turns. And when her time finally came and she was right on the brink of death, she managed to escape with the light and barely survive. Years later, she was almost sold to slave traders. We must see what happens next. Alright guys, let's dive into how a mercenary named Evan actually saved her life back then. After that, she got treatment from a mysterious benefactor who promised to keep sending her medicine and support. Plus, she would be completely safe under the Palacio name. She did not even need to worry about her brother's signed Alan Palacio. He was so incredibly grateful for everything the guy had done for them. And Deus was absolutely shocked hearing this. He asks if Alan protected her under the Palacio name, wondering how the Great Moon knew all of this. He never mentioned his family, and only Yusha knew he was captured by the Black Lamb. He is left totally confused, desperately trying to figure out how he did it. But then, he remembers Yusha telling him that Alan knew literally everything since they were little kids. And now he finally realizes that all his doubts just clicked together like a puzzle and vanished. Before, he could never understand Yusha's anxiety or why she spoke about him that way. But turns out he was the real fool all along. He also recalls the words Alan told her, promising that good things were bound to happen. Now he gets it, Alan knew everything, even warning that kid about what lay in the future. Just thinking about it gives him cold sweats. But right beside him, his companion asks what is going on, so he shakes it off, thinking how his legendary sword dared to act completely on its own. But he chose to be generous and merciful instead. His mind had always been consumed by nothing but sheer hatred for the Black Lamb. Yet in the end, he was blessed with an absolutely priceless gift. He suddenly remembers Yusha's words once again. And it all finally clicks. Now you and I understand why she follows him. She is no fanatic blindly trusting some random guy. At this point, the only thing on his mind is that he absolutely must repay him. His ultimate mission now is to become the absolute peak of caliber. A master knight assembling his own personal order of the finest swordsmen alive. Anyway, back in the present, a knight approaches Deus to tell him the time has come. With that, the two head straight toward the other knights. Deus secretly believes that this brand new expedition will serve as the kickoff for the solar eclipse. And no matter what obstacles stand in his way, he will eagerly wait for the day he can finally reward him properly. Raising his blade, he tells his squad they must prove themselves before the moon. And just like that, the solar eclipse knights march off to battle the savage barbarians. But let's pivot back to our main boy, who is currently chilling at home and thinking about absolutely nothing. Suddenly, a bunch of notes begin flying out from his books. Taking this as a clear signal, he gets right back to translating the ancient formulas and phrases to power up his magic. And after working for a bit, the final report is complete. He now knows refraction boosts a spell's imperfections, significantly widening its entire area of effect. Which is exactly what happened during his past battle against the golems. Refraction can also alter shapes, affecting how the magic projectile actually travels. Plus, the indigo light boosts parallel spells like his classic lightning magic. Which is exactly what he did before. Finally, the refraction line ensures maximum penetration, guaranteeing a massive critical hit. And that's where we leave it. Our boy can still only cast one spell a day. Trust me, it took him forever to learn this. See, in this world, hand signs and Babylonian speech were long forgotten, leaving absolutely zero info behind, so he had to do his own research. But he ended up loving it, even though he only learned magic for protection. So he finally starts running those tests, ready to finally see the results of his hard work over 2 whole months. He starts flashing those hand signs, aiming to pull off something crazy here. He breaks the monosphere's focus point, throwing it off balance to summon pure lightning. And this supposedly trash magic, it is called fixation. Boom, a massive ball of energy sparks right above him, and step 2 is comprehension. Next comes collapse. Spelling out these words starts giving this wild magic real purpose. Then he shouts bloom, casting one final epic hand sign. Suddenly the sky turns pitch black and a gigantic lightning bolt blasts down toward the mansion, right on our hero. Look at this, a massive tree of energy. Looking like it's woven from pure lightning, pops up right in front of him. He's totally shocked, realizing the order actually matters when he cast collapse first. But before he can even finish, someone suddenly screams right next to him that this is totally impossible. He turns around and spots two people who definitely shouldn't be chilling here. Lady Zenonia is completely jaw-dropped, asking if this is just some low-level ordinary magic. Our boy is totally stunned to see them there while standing right next to Zenonia. That old guy is shaking like a leaf, stuttering about how he cast ordinary magic. Dude thinks our boy is a 7th circle mage. But our guy is like, ordinary? What trash is he spitting, and does he seriously think a weak 2nd circle rookie like me is some legendary 7th circle master? Let's fast forward to them sitting in the guest room. And they are sitting so quietly, saying absolutely nothing while she thinks about her two main reasons for coming here. First, to double-check the Count's real motives, since he was the one who wreaked havoc on Zenonia. And second, to sniff out the powerful organization protecting him and running this massive mansion. But what she actually stumbled on is way bigger than that. Especially seeing her own mage sweating bullets, she never expected this arrogant old geezer to look so utterly terrified. See, Vyakwil is a powerful 5th circle mage. Kicked out of the magic tower for sick experiments, and he can wipe out entire armies easily. He was always super cocky while working under her. Sure, she knows fear, but she's never seen him lose his cool like this. She keeps wondering if that really was just some basic magic. Right then, the door swings open, and our boy asks what brings Lady Zenonia all the way to his county. So later on, they sit down and she apologizes for dropping in, saying she has been dying to meet him. But our boy plays it cool, telling her he does not blame her at all. However, he wants to set things straight. What they saw was definitely not ordinary magic. Honestly, if they actually measured his power, he is barely a 2nd circle mage. He claims that the nervous mage beside her probably missed the lack of real impact. And that's where we leave it. He knows that spell is useless in combat. Stick with me here. His words to both of them basically tell them to shut up about this and not dare say a thing. So the old guy, scared to death, says yes, exactly. He claims he just saw it wrong, while the girl notices he is being super polite. Meanwhile, our boy is secretly sighing in relief, saying that everything is just perfect. Now that the misunderstanding is cleared up, they can finally get straight to business. The lady mentions she felt she had to visit him after wrapping up business nearby. Alan asks if she has a specific reason for dropping by, but she says no. So Alan politely tells her he actually has work to do and cannot chat for long. So she stands up immediately, thanking him for his time, and says she will take her leave now. As she is leaving, Alan mentions that if she ever needs someone to talk to, he would highly recommend Duchess Altia, since they would probably get along great. Which absolutely shocks Zenonia to her core. But she quickly plays it cool, saying she will definitely visit her. Now watch closely as the two of them finally leave the mansion behind. Right at the gate, Evan asks why Zenonia from a ruined Eastern family would even come here. Alan replies he has absolutely no clue. But in his head, he knows this is trouble, if rumors spread that he can use regular magic. All those who hunt down powerful opponents will challenge him, and he will definitely end up dead. Heading back inside, he sighs about how incredibly dangerous this world is, desperately hoping they fully understood what he just said. She definitely won't visit Altia while they compete for control of the underworld. Honestly, the only thing he wants is for them to never show up again. Now inside the carriage, Kalia asks the old mage what we were all wondering. Really was just some ordinary magic, but the old guy insists that it was not. Confused, she asks about his intense reaction, and he explains that ordinary magic follows standard laws. But manipulating absolute and immutable principles is something only pinnacle mages can ever achieve. However, what the Count used was completely different. The old man used his special eye to analyze that exact spell. What he witnessed was absolutely shocking because the Count was actively breaking absolute principles. He basically seized the thunder itself, molding it while completely collapsing natural laws. Yet despite doing that, the magic still successfully manifested. What he did was an impossible miracle, or at least, it absolutely should have been impossible. But the old maid shivers, saying the most terrifying part was what happened next. He caught a glimpse of an actual outer god, and just thinking about it makes his head throb. Muttering to himself, he realizes he must stop dwelling on it, as seeking deeper answers is way too dangerous. Back in his younger days, he pushed deep into ancient knowledge, earning high praise for researching magic of the Forgotten Era. Because of that, he wants to make one thing extremely clear. She must never cross Count Palacio. Hearing this, Kalia gets slightly annoyed, wondering if she should really stop trying to figure out his true goals and his advice about Duchess Altia. She realizes they are nothing but pawns on his massive chessboard. Shortly after that encounter, a 5-month time skip takes us to 2 years since the kids first left the orphanage. Let's see what happens next. Alright, you and I are diving right in as Evan walks in and Alon asks about the kids. But Evan says it is not about them. Instead, he reveals that the Zenonia County and Alt Duchy have teamed up. This leaves our boy completely shocked. He asks how the two biggest underworld powers could ever ally. Evan explains it is a secret underworld deal kept under wraps, but he is absolutely sure about it. Our worried boy starts thinking about how to steer these future villains onto a better path. But first, he has to handle this massive alliance while the entire kingdom's underworld is in shambles. He wonders if Kalia actually took what he told her that day seriously to heart. But then, he figures he is overthinking because that arrogant Kalia would never listen to a single word, but stick with me, he still has to prepare. So he starts writing. Drafting a letter to Kalia, apologizing if he was too blunt and rude during their talk. Adding that his only excuse is that he is just terrible with words. All while quietly hoping she does not think he is just lying to her. After finishing, he hands the letter to Evan to deliver to Lady Zenonia, and right after Evan leaves, our boy goes back to his mail wondering how they are doing. Wondering about Raiden and Sialrang since Yusha barely wrote any details after they reached their destination. He genuinely hopes that crazy wolf girl is not dead in some ditch. But if she actually finds the special gift he mentioned in his letter, she is bound to become the absolute peak of all Baba Yaga gladiators. And that gift is none other than the legendary golden mane essence. The system description says that with it, she would never have fallen into corruption and become a villain. Instead, she would have risen as a renowned legend among the wolf race. He also notes it will let her find all the hidden treasures nearby, which he planned to use as his own emergency fund. But hey, you and I know she is talented enough to make her own cash, so it is fine. Besides, she is in a savage nation where raw power rules the entire world, the scorched desert land of Colonia. And just like that, our scene shifts over to the Colonia desert. Deep inside a dark cave under the cold desert night, Sialrang is completely ecstatic, cheering that her brutal trials have finally come to an end. She thanks the Great Moon, having believed that this legendary golden mane essence was just a myth. But she actually got it, proving it was not some fake story. She suddenly remembers when her mother told her about this legend, back when she first asked about the Golden Tribe. Her mother had explained that their proud wolf tribe are the direct descendants of the legendary kings of all beasts. And this powerful tribal essence is a legendary treasure passed down through countless generations, granting them absolute strength and authority. She realizes that passing these trials and finally claiming the essence means the legend was completely real. The Great Moon truly is her ultimate savior. The one who rescued her from dying as a lab rat and gave her the strength to avenge her parents. Unleashing an insane aura, she vows to repay his massive favor no matter what. And she is absolutely sure he does not want her to be a mediocre gladiator. From this moment on, she must become the strongest fighter alive. Rebuild the Golden Mane tribe and finally slay that dreaded black dragon. Looking at the sky, she vows that everything she does is for the Great Moon, and you know she means it. Alright, you and I are diving into his real adventure now. Because the legendary beast king of the Golden Mane tribe is finally waking up after centuries, as they both sit down, Evan reminds our boy that the guild finally dug up some solid intel regarding those kids. He meant to bring it up earlier but totally blanked. Word is, Suruga is absolutely crushing it over in Colonia, even scoring the epic title of Golden Flash. He goes, wait, what even is a Golden Flash? But hey, he is just super glad she is doing great. Evan nods, saying in a place like that, raw power lets you get away with anything. Then Alan asks about Had, since he has not heard a single peep since he got sent to Ratches. Evan admits he has got some rumors, but he is still checking if they are legit. Our boy asks what is up, wondering if Had is slacking off since he stopped calling. But Evan gets super shaky, begging for forgiveness before telling him to pack his bags because traveling to the Magic Tower is going to take a whole month. This completely blindsides Evan, who gasps out, "Wait, what Magic Tower are you talking about?" He has never heard of this place before. Now watch this, our boy asks if he forgot to mention it. But Evan argues that a month is crazy, since reaching the Green Magic Tower should only take a single week. But Alan drops a bomb, saying he is heading to the Blue Tower instead. Evan leaves to go get everything prepped and ready for their departure. The moment he leaves, Alan flops down, dreading a whole month trapped inside a carriage. It sounds exhausting, but hey, what choice does he have right now? The exact item that will boost his tiny mana pool is waiting there, right next to the massive labyrinths. Let's pause, this brings back massive memories. Back in the game, he grinded there for ages to power up. This maze sits right in the city center. A legendary spot where players score insane loot and level up like crazy the deeper they go. But nobody has ever cleared it. Still, ancient relics and artifacts are constantly dug up there. And that is exactly why the Magic Appraiser job became a total goldmine, guaranteeing a super wealthy life. In her letters, Ren mentioned she is taking the appraisal exam soon, and with her insane talent, he knows she will ace it easily. But he feels like the gift he sent was way too small compared to others. Since it only appraises stuff, he definitely should have thrown in something extra. Now the scene shifts over to the labyrinth city of Lartania. This lawless place is ruled by absolutely nobody, a true haven for mercenaries and explorers. Walking past various shops, tucked away in the south side is a secret little appraisal shop called Maerd. This spot got famous for its top-tier unique service, catering mostly to high-ranking noble explorers. And right inside the shop, the appraiser greets her next client, who happens to be a wealthy lord of Lartania. This appraiser is none other than Rinny, who explains this device uses mana to spark a flame, making it an inscribed relic. The lord looks confused, asking an inscribed skill. She nods, explaining that with just a tiny drop of mana, the flame stays lit for at least a whole hour. The lord gets incredibly hyped, celebrating how its efficiency is way better than he expected. And that is where we pause. Alright, you and I are starting with our girl pulling off her mask, revealing her true, older self. Right behind her, she stares at an item that looks just like a pair of binoculars. She mentions that this little gadget also packs a special imprinted ability. And the whole reason she set up her shop on this corner is because of that exact skill. She steps out from behind the counter and heads to the back, staring at the Great Moon's gift. Giggling happily, she recalls when he told her to become an appraiser and how she just couldn't understand why. Her true identity is actually an old friend of Elan from the ancient era of Outer Gods. She knows the whole point was to destroy those creepy dark monsters. But his letter told her to head over to Lartania and become a magic appraiser. She really couldn't wrap her head around that strange mission. When she arrived, she kept wondering what being an appraiser had to do with killing monsters. Watch this. But the very second she saw her gift, she finally understood. It's the Chaser's Eye, a tool that instantly identifies low mana items and helps her run appraisals. But Line says these are totally different, using materials not even in her eternal library and since the heavens shattered. The seal was finally unlocked, and she says that to defeat those dark creatures she must awaken this artifact, which requires sacrifices, and she is already halfway there, reaching number 248 or 9 with this latest piece. Smiling, Line says she only needs about 251 more sacrifices. She knows that to increase the count, the relic must absorb something to modify the eye. And it only reacts to super high-level relics. If the wrong item gets sacrificed, the whole counter resets, meaning she must carefully identify high-level sacrifices using her special imprint. That is a job only she can handle, thanks to possessing the Library of Eternity. Ultimately, it is all to slay those dark beasts, a master plan we are seeing unfold. The story then fast-forwards 3 weeks later to the famous Kasu Blue Magic Tower. As soon as our boy steps inside, he runs into a girl who tells him that currently, The tower master is away, so he should just say what he wants and leave. This girl is the vice master of the blue magic tower, a sixth circle mage. Named Fenia Kryson. He can tell she is incredibly annoyed, but her face looks crazy familiar from his playthrough of the main quest, even though she is currently just a vice master. In the original game, she was a once-in-a-lifetime genius prodigy, reaching the 8th circle at just 20 and taking over as tower master. Not only is the magic tower powerful, but they also monopolize rare items, giving them the same status as high nobility. But even with all that authority, this girl has a major attitude problem. Alan introduces himself as Count Palacio, stating he is here to discuss the temporal rift like he mentioned earlier. An irritated Fenia snaps back, asking what he means by that. He casually tells her that he has a way to destroy the temporal rift, making her freeze, knowing that the dangerous temporal rift is a crack connected to a mysterious subspace, appearing frequently in areas where heavy magic is used. It causes major anomalies that unleash absolute destruction. Fenia immediately glares at our boy with her sharp eyes, mocking how someone with zero talent could say that. Stick around for the next part. Alright, you and I are jumping right into this mess as she tells him to get lost, but he demands answers. She gets super triggered and asks if he's really trying to bypass the time portal and steal all the loot. And yep, that's exactly his plan. She loses her mind and asks if he knows how many clowns say this garbage, but our boy stays cool as a cucumber. He's just spitting straight facts and tells her to take him to the portal so he can show off. She scoffs, saying she gets that he needs some massive stunt to fix his totally trashed public reputation, since everyone thinks he only became the count because his brothers got deleted by pure luck. But he can't just cause a scene here, instantly flexing her terrifying aura to scare them both. Now watch this, our boy is clueless about rumors. Probably because he's been keeping a super low profile. And this girl seems like a total workaholic, but she's got all the hot gossip on lock. The only thing running through his mind right now is that she is absolutely terrifying. Behind him, Ava whispers that this is just her passive energy, warning they'll get sliced in half if they keep poking the bear. But caring absolutely 0%. Alan takes a step forward and declares that if he fails to seal the portal, he will donate his entire fortune to her magic tower. Fenia claims he is still talking absolute garbage, but he stares her down with a dead serious face and offers to make a magical binding oath, pointing out this is a sweet deal for her. The vice master eyes him with major suspicion, wondering if he is legit. You and I know she can't resist, so she leads him right to the portal. She warns that his money is officially hers the second he messes this up. But Alan says that's not happening, while she thinks this whole setup is just perfect. She wanted to see if he's just a lucky scrub or the actual mastermind of the county. After talking to him for a bit, she realizes he is incredibly full of himself. And despite that heavy, inhuman vibe, his actual magic level is only at the peak of the 2nd circle, making her wonder how he has the nerve to act so cocky. It's honestly pretty pathetic. But in Alan's head, he knows there's actually no real reason to seal this thing up. It will naturally vanish in 3 months once the relic is gone, even if no wizard can shut it down right now. However, this blue magic tower portal has been active for 2 whole years, and now they are standing face to face with it. Fenny stands in the back, warning that if he fails, he gets kicked out immediately, but our hero completely ignores her warnings and starts weaving crazy hand signs. She is completely shocked, asking if he is seriously trying to cast with bare hands instead of using a staff to channel his magic. She thinks that even ancient magic books call this a super primitive technique, a style that is basically a fairy tale. Getting annoyed, she tells him to stop embarrassing himself and get the heck out. But at that exact moment, he starts casting, blowing her mind as the entire room suddenly turns completely black and white. Breaking into a cold sweat, she realizes she cannot move a single finger. She has absolutely no idea what is happening here. Panicking, she quickly activates her special eye magic and stares directly at our main character. Suddenly, a giant eye appears above him, staring down at her like an ant, and trust me, you and I are not ready for this. Leaving the vice master completely shocked. And honestly, we both know what she's thinking, which is subscribing and liking this video right now. Alright guys, let's crush our goal of 3,000 likes if you want the next part. Trust me, hyping this up helps a ton. And to show even more support, Consider becoming a member by clicking the button down below. But anyway, that's it guys, I'm heading out. Catch you in the next video, alright?